Welcome to Brain Junk. I'm Trace Kerr.
And I'm Amy Barton.
When we were deep diving research for something else, one of us stumbled across the pentathlon of muses. And it turns out that used to be an Olympic event. Mm-hmm. And so then we fell down in this rabbit hole of researching discontinued Olympic games.
Yeah, because the pentathlon of muses sounds athletic and amazing, but it's the arts in the Olympics, right?
Yeah,
we'll talk about it later.
Today we're going to be talking about everything you never knew you wanted to know about discontinued Olympic Games. Amy, why don't you start us off on a little history? What exactly are we talking about?
Well, before you can talk about the discontinued games, I think it's important to know, how do you become an Olympic sport? How do you get into the Olympic? The International Olympic Committee has to recognize your activity as a sport. And to be defined as a sport, it has to have administration by an international, non-governmental organization. And it has to be overseas. It's got to be in multiple countries. So that's the first step to get recognized by the International Olympic Committee. The second step, now that the Olympic Committee recognizes, yeah, you're a sport, that's a thing, to International Sports Federation recognition. And that's where the Olympic movement anti-doping code comes in. This is probably not back in the early Olympic Games, but now that is a big part of it, is that you are conducting effective out-of-contest season testing, and that you're maintaining rules set forth by the Olympic Charter. So it's a second step of recognition. And finally, if you get through those two levels, you have to file a petition, which has established criteria for eligibility for the IOC. They look at everything, and they may then admit your activity if qualifies as a sport, as a discipline, which is a branch of a sport, or as an event, which is a competition within a discipline. So think track and field is a sport. A discipline within track and field would be sprints. So it's a lot of work to be a part of the Olympics. Wow. The Olympic Charter indicates that in order to be accepted, a sport must be widely practiced by men in at least 75 countries. And for women, we only have to do it in 40 countries. So that's a win, ladies.
Oh, you just said men, and I was like, wow, that's sexist. And then you said women.
So I'm torn about that. Ladies, we have to prove we're popular in fewer countries, but I feel like they set the bar low for us. The sport must also increase the value and the appeal of the Olympic Games because there's money involved. It has to retain and reflect modern traditions of the Olympics. And there's tons of other rules, including bans on purely mind sports and motor sports. So chess is not in the Olympics. Automobile racing will not be in the Olympics.
One thing that I noticed looking at the discontinued sports, the popularity piece, that a lot of these ones that we're going to be talking about today were discontinued because only 3 people competed or only one person came to watch the event. And
it's a very regional sport.
And granted, these were early 1900s, but still part of that keeping the youthful piece. I mean, the reason why snowboarding was included was because they were like, the kids just aren't watching people shooting down the hill on 2 skis. It's not as exciting for some people. And so, okay, everybody's doing this snowboarding thing. Let's talk to that Shaun White guy and see if he wants to come to the Olympics.
Yes. And now there's very much, if we have a new sport come in, we're going to evaluate and see which one we're going to axe. You have to have this balance. So they periodically review as they add more. In addition, one of the dilemmas is finding a venue that is appropriate in a country that maybe doesn't play baseball. They're not going to have a baseball diamond or a stadium. Do they really want to build a baseball stadium that will never be used again? So media, public interest, these are big drivers, and facilities all contribute to the modern how a game is chosen. It's a lot easier to be dropped from the Olympics than it is to get in once you're in.
Once you're in, that you usually stick around, except for, okay, so let's talk about some of these discontinued sports. So these are sports that were actually played during an Olympics or maybe multiple Olympics. People medaled in these sports.
Yeah.
My top of the list is club swinging.
Okay.
So it appeared twice as a sport. Once in, I'm going to explain. Once in 1904 in St. Louis, there were 3 competitors, all from the United States. And it was called Indian clubs, as in India, Indians.
Eastern India.
Yes.
Okay.
In the 1932 Los Angeles Olympics, 4 competed, 3 from the USA and 1 from Mexico. So right there, you've already got, it's not popular all over the place.
No.
And it's called Indian clubs or Persian meals. They come from Persia, Egypt, and the Middle East, used as weapons originally. They look almost like a bowling pin or a juggling pin.
Gotcha.
You know, a skinny ball on the bottom and then that rounded bowling pin kind of shape.
Okay.
British colonists came across the pins when they were taking over India. So, of course, they called them India clubs. Mm-hmm. It was 19th century exercise equipment used for strength and agility training. It became super popular in Britain and the United States back in that early 19s. Mm-hmm. I have a video up, and this fellow kind of made it look old-timey, which is really fun. But you would hold them in your hands and do a series of waving motions. It's kind of a precursor
Bringing the plane in?
Well, yeah, it looks either like semaphore or early baton, but they never left your hand. So you'd spin them around your hand and put them behind you and in front of you. It was kind of
They're wood,
slow.
right?
They're wooden. The ones in the Olympics were said to weigh about 1.5 pounds. This is actually coming back as an exercise sport. I found quite a few
weighted clubs?
YouTube videos. Yes, and then they're heavier. So you've got these, this really tough looking gym, and the guy is holding these wooden pins, or they're probably plastic pins now that are weighted, moving them around up and down. I was thinking, wow, that'd be good for my bingo wings.
Oh, yeah. What I'm wondering, though, is I have foam nunchucks. They are official martial arts practice foam nunchucks. So they're not quite the ones you get at the party store. I have given myself burns on my arms, and I have whacked myself in the head and more times than I can tell you. I'm imagining practicing with these clubs.
Well, because when you watch the video, they do move really slowly.
Oh.
They're not... I know
it's not for speed.
Zoe came in and she's like, when are they going to start hitting people? And I'm like, they really don't. They're kind of moving at this really
I'm with Zoe.
set tempo of just wave up and then over and then in a circle.
Okay.
It's not
So don't
fast.
think nunchucks, think Tai Chi.
Think Tai Chi speed. And they were the inspiration for juggling pins. The winner of the 1932 event, I love this. So George Roth, this was, during the end of the Depression. Mm-hmm. He finishes his club swinging routine. He wins the gold medal in front of 60,000 people. And then he walked out of the stadium and he hitchhiked home. So it's a different level of prestige in the 1930s.
Yeah. One of the ones that grabbed my attention initially, I thought, okay, I see why this is canceled. Tug-of-War. But the more I read, it's not what I imagined at all. It is tug-of-war. It's traditional tug-of-war. Two teams, you're trying to pull a rope a certain distance over a middle line. And it was an Olympic sport between 1900 and 1920. And originally it was, you entered in clubs. So there was a year you could enter multiple clubs in the U.S. You could enter multiple clubs in any country. So one year, the U.S. swept the medals. Nobody else besides the U.S. won any medals. One year, Britain did it, too. So there's probably only 3 or 4 Olympics that this was in. But 2 of those years, one country swept all the awards. And that one has been discontinued. On the Wikipedia page I was on, there's a section called Notable Incidents. And I know that tug-of-war is fraught with peril because you don't want that rope whipping through your hands. I basically was envisioning trod upon toes and your hands getting raw.
And then maybe because we used to be able to do tug-of-war when we were in elementary school, you and I. That has been totally phased out. And I can remember if you were towards the back of the line, if your group lost footing, you could get squished because everybody would kind of fall on each other.
Yeah.
So that's where I was going.
In a real competition environment where things are serious, there were notes of possible death and amputations. And so this notable incident charts in 1978 in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, they had a competition with 2,300 people participating. They had a 2,000-foot rope, and there were overall 200 injuries, 6 fingers and thumbs amputated.
Oh my God. No, wait. All of these people were pulling at the same time. We split that. How many people?
2,300 people.
So we split.
Like 1,700 people on both sides, right?
Oh my gosh.
1,650. Yeah. And we're middle schoolers. These are 12 to 14-year-olds. Holy cow. So there's a whole bunch. I have posted it on our show notes. You can go take a look. There's another event with a scout troop, 650 participants. There were crushes and ground strikes where you probably are kind of trampled. An official event in Taiwan with dignitaries lost a whole arm.
Okay, you sent me this last night, and I was like, arm severing.
What I think must happen is they do that wraparound to give you more pull.
Oh, man.
That seems extremely imprudent. And one of the things they noted is that with amateur events, this is sort of like your uncle and your buddy hooking up a bungee cord. You need a professional who determines rope strength, can handle 2,300 participants, and is not going to snap.
Right.
And there's definitely a crowd effect with pulling. So, wow, tug-of-war, folks. Go check your children. Take the rope away.
More dangerous than you knew.
Yes.
Especially because the earlier Olympics, 1900 up, there was a real emphasis on this has to be amateurs.
Yes.
It's not so much today. I mean, you can have someone who's a professional.
Yeah, Shaun White's making money and winning medals.
Yes, but back in the day, you had to be an amateur. You weren't making money off of this. So those accidents probably were far more prevalent.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about another dangerous sport.
Yes.
Equestrian vaulting.
I'm interested in this one.
I was so excited when I saw this because I was like, I wonder if it's related to what I'm thinking of. And it is. So let me tell you about it. Part of the 1920 Games in Antwerp, Belgium, France, and Sweden were the only competitors.
Small.
And equestrian vaulting has been extremely popular in those countries and Germany. Kind of all along. It's acrobatic skill on the backs of horses. So this sport has been around for at least 2,000 years. I think as long as there have been people riding horses, there's somebody who's like, I wonder if I could do a handstand on the horse.
Yes, but usually they go to the circus.
Well, yeah, or you're trying to impress the ladies, you know. It seems like an impress the ladies kind of thing. The horse is usually moving at a walk or trot, and it's lunged. That means it's wearing a bridle, and there's a long lead from the horse to a person who's standing in the middle. Okay. And they keep the horse going at an even pace around in a circle.
So there's some precaution.
Yes, while the vaulter competes. In the 1920 Olympics, it was only men competing. The competitor starts on the ground running next to the horse, and the saddle has special handles on it. Okay. They were jumping like up onto the back of the horse and off the other side, and they were doing somersaults on the horse.
Holy cow.
1920, we had it. There weren't a lot of competitors that went away. Well, in post-war Germany, they were using equestrian vaulting to introduce children to equestrian sports. Which it's not like, hey, instead we're going to ride the horse. No, look what you can handstand.
Leap onto
yes, we're going to leap onto the horse, and that's going to get children really excited about riding horses.
Do a handstand on it?
Yeah, now it's choreographed with music, and it's gaining in popularity. I have a video on the website. You've got the gal in her fancy leotard sort of thing, and she's jogging along next to the horse, and there's music, and she jumps up on it. They're doing handstands and flips and all sorts of things on the back of this horse. They have singles.
Yeah.
And they have pairs. Wow. And even more. So you could have, I saw one, it was like 3 ladies, and they were all in this
horse all at once?
Triangle configuration, and the horses going around in a circle. It looks super cool and super dangerous.
Yes. So, I love that idea. I'm going to go check that video out.
Yep. The 2010, okay, so this is equestrian games. This isn't the Olympics. This is the equestrian games. They had hundreds of horse vaulters from 50 countries. And you talked about the petition process that you have to go through with the IOC. Well, they have submitted a petition, and they're currently trying to be recognized by the IOC.
Interesting. So we could see them in 2022.
We could see, and
I think that's the next one.
Beijing or Tokyo or one of these things, we could see horse vaulting.
I would tune in for that. I might actively go looking for that.
I know I would.
Yeah. The next thing I would definitely have gone actively looking for, which I did online, there's a video, solo synchronized swimming. Hands down, my favorite discontinued event for multiple reasons. This one occurred in the 84 Olympics up through the 92 Olympics and was discontinued for exactly the reason you think. Solo synchronized swimming? What? No.
You can't be synchronized if you're all by yourself. You're just...
The argument is that they're synchronized to the music. So give it a new name.
Just call it solo swim ballet or something.
It is actually quite athletic because it's super great. The ladies even sound, there's a video from 1984. They sound 80s the way they talk. I imagine them with really feathered hair. But they talk about the athleticism of the event. She's slowly rising out of the water until just the right level, and we want to see great control. They announce it like a golf match. It's good. Watch it. It's terrific.
Well, synchronized swimming is one of those sports where they've got the nose pinchy
I love
thing
the pinchy
on,
nose
and
look.
they've got their hat on, and it's kind of got a strange aesthetic with how they move, but the strength factor, especially when they have cameras underwater.
Yes.
And you can see this, I mean, they're treading water and they're holding most of their body out and kicking. I mean, it is one of those very athletic events.
They show where she comes up. She's down about 8 feet under and she rises feet first slowly out of the water until her hips are out and her rear end's almost out. And she holds it there and she does splits. And it is quite amazing because, have you ever tried to do the handstand. In the shallow end of the pool?
Yep.
It was amazing. But it is discontinued, and I don't think that one's coming back in that form. There are notes that some of the discontinued sports are discontinued because they changed maybe they went to a metric measurement of distance, or so you could still see a similar sport. Like there's one where it's skiing with rifles, military skiing. I was showing my husband, and he's like, that's still a thing.
Yes.
I'm like, what? They ski with guns? He's
yes.
like, yeah.
And the big deal about that one is you're cooking along and your heart rate is really high, and so it makes you all shaky. To stop, calm, aim, and shoot, which is very difficult to do.
I was totally convinced that it's not a thing anymore. So this must be one where either the group of participants has changed, something appreciable has changed in the way that event happens. And so military skiing is not a thing anymore. Maybe civilians can ski too. Ski with guns. We can all ski with guns.
Oh, let's not. Let's talk about art and the pentathlon of muses.
Okay.
So from 1912 to 1952, poets, painters, and writers, they competed for bronze, silver, and gold in architecture, musical composition, sculpture, painting, and literature.
This sounds like the arts barn at the fair to me.
Well, no, we're much higher than that. According to Huffington Post, the Pentathlon of Muses was the brainchild of Baron Pierre de Coubertin. He thought adding arts to the sporty Olympics would add an intellectual compass to the rapidly industrializing world.
Okay.
Only works inspired by sport were allowed to receive medals.
That makes sense. Still have that athletic theme.
So there's still that athletic sport theme. 151 medals to original works were awarded over that 1912 to 1952 time period.
So you're probably not getting an award for floral arrangement.
No, you're not.
Okay.
So like I said, you've got your architecture and your composition and your painting and your literature. According to Smithsonian.com, in 1912, an American marksman, Walter W. Winans, he won silver for sharpshooting and gold for a bronze sculpture of a 20-inch horse pulling a small chariot.
Wow, he's a modern man.
Yeah, and that was the first ever Olympic gold medal for sculpture, and we have that up on the website.
Excellent.
It's pretty cool. Most sports are discontinued because of that lack of involvement piece. Well, the Pentathlon of Muses was enormously popular. In the 1932 games in Los Angeles, nearly 400,000 people visited the LA Museum of History, Science, and Art to see all of the works that were entered.
Wow, so it definitely meets that criteria of popularity and monetary value.
Yep, it was popular and everything, but the controversy began almost from the beginning and kind of built to a head after World War II. The pentathlon ran into a whole bunch of troubles. There was a huge argument about amateurs.
Oh, I can see where that could be.
Because at the time, only amateurs were allowed to compete, and it was decided that artists were professionals because how do I make my money? I make my money by selling my art. And so that makes you professional. There was some thought that an artist would enter in the Olympics to try to win a medal because that would gain them fame for their artwork.
So they want amateurs that are doing hook rugs and things, there's where they're
Well, so then that's what happened is they started pushing out these more professional, air quotes, artists. And so more amateurs were participating and the judges started to complain. Some of them even refused to arbitrate because they felt that the entries weren't very good.
That makes sense.
After 1952, it just kind of lost favor. And here's the thing that's really a strange twist. So you can't find a lot of info about the Pentathlon of Muses on the official Olympics website. There isn't even a list of medal winners for the arts.
Really?
And according to the Smithsonian, they have been stricken from the official record and do not count toward countries' current medal counts. It's just like they said, you know what? This is about sport. It is not about art. Gone.
Wow. Huh.
So a lot of people were probably pretty angry about the whole situation.
Yes, those medal holders that... Wow.
Yeah, so you can...
kind of cloak and dagger.
I've linked to a website that shows a bunch of the art that was done. There's quite a famous one of rugby that's actually up on our website. Oh, and another argument along with the amateur thing and the professional thing was some people were saying, well, why does it have to be about sport? It's still art, you know? So there was also a complaint from the artists about theme. So it just kind of devolved.
That's probably around the time when the IOC started formalizing their criteria, I would suspect.
We mentioned in the beginning other sports, demonstration sports. So they kind of went on along with the Olympics.
Yeah.
And normally they were used to promote a local sport from a host country. Now they're more likely to be used to gauge interest in a new sport. So they were not officially not introduced officially until 1912. Every time there was an Olympics, there were other sport things going on.
Yeah, you may have even observed a demo sport.
Yeah.
And not really, you don't pay attention because they are issuing medals. They just don't count in official country medal counts. So they're still winning and having podiums and all that good stuff. And they're happening in tandem with the Olympics, but they don't count.
One of the ones that I think is a super example of the local sport from the host country was skewering.
That was one that I was surprisingly delighted by. So do you want to know what it is?
Strapping yourself to an animal while on skis.
Yeah. So, yes. So it's a dude being pulled, think boat and skier on two skis, but it's the horse. And in St. Switzerland, the horse is riderless. They're specifically trained to pull a skier.
Having been behind a horse that's going at a pretty fast clip, I would imagine you'd catch a lot of snow in the face.
I would think
or,
so,
you know,
too.
how even if you were, well, I guess if you were maybe 20 feet behind the horse. But then what if the horse decides to take a 90-degree turn and then they're cracking the whip with you on the back there?
Right. And all you have is reins to kind of say, whoa, buddy, we're going left. And they're going right.
Seems like
I think you're going where the horse wants to go.
Bad idea.
Yes.
Well, one thing you don't see anymore at the Olympics is cannon shooting.
For real?
Yeah. So it was a demonstration in the 1900 games in Paris. Possibly they think the competition was for distance and accuracy. There were 17 events, all with men, only French competitors.
Okay.
But I just like the idea of them.
Those audacious French.
Yes. Shooting their cannons. Let's show the rest of the world what we can do.
That makes me so happy.
That was very short-lived. That just made it through one Olympics. The other one in 1900s, they were kind of wacky in the 1900s games. It was kind of the 1900 game in Paris was kind of the revamping of doing the Olympics. There weren't a lot of attendees. I feel like it was more like a small concert instead of the Olympics that we think of today. There was also the 200-meter swimming race, but they felt like 200 meters, we can do that, down, back. Well, we're making an obstacle race.
Oh, boy.
So they had to climb a pole, then they were swimming, then they had to swim under a row of boats. And then they had to climb out and climb over another row of boats and then swim some more.
Wow. I'm a part-time lifeguard in the summer, and I'm not down with this one.
Yeah. Well, and again, that only had a handful of competitors.
I can see why. That seems a little perilous. Pause right now and go watch the ski ballet video. It is from...
I saw one where the guy had giant gold puffy sleeves.
Oh, that's so good.
Here he looks like this sporty Ken doll from,
yes,
from
exactly.
The whole body. But then his arms had just gone to Vegas. And he was all these puffy sleeves. And I thought, who made that poor man put on that costume?
Yes. The ski ballet was 1988 to 1992.
Prime time for puffy sleeves.
So there's a video on the website of Herman Reitberger, and he also has he's got a sweet mullet. It's very period specific, and he's got what looks like a peplum, like a little skirty. Something's flying in the way.
Oh, he's kind of flirty.
Yeah, and he is doing amazing. It's athletically very impressive. He's got some serious ski poles too, because he's balancing and sort of standing up on them and doing a flip over the backside, and it's amazing. I can barely stand up on two skis and manage to maneuver myself in any particular direction.
Well, go take a look.
Yeah, it's on the website.
Absolutely. Before we go, if you want to learn more about discontinued Olympic sports, please come visit us at brainjunkpodcast.com. We'll have pictures and videos, so many notes for you. There was so much to talk about. For this and other wonderful episodes, look for Brain Junk wherever you find your podcasts. And wherever you listen, don't forget to subscribe.
We tweet at My Brain Junk, and you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Brain Junk Podcast. Trace and I will catch you next time when we share more of everything you never knew you wanted to know, and I guarantee you will not be bored.